everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I'm hoping that this 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time hour is better for everyone, for East Coast, West Coast, Central, and of course, anybody at any point on the globe. So welcome. My name is Dr. Judy Rosenberg, Psychological Healing Center, and we are going to do a show tonight titled strategies, long-term strategies for staying clear away from narcissistic, steering clear of narcissistic relationships. So for those of you who do not know, I have a book that you are welcome to have a free FREE PDF copy of, titled Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. Please ask for it. You can also order it off of Amazon.com. That's the hard copy. That's not the free one. Because one of the favorite lines in my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, is a line a quote by Einstein that goes something like, smart people solve problems, geniuses prevent them. So let's be geniuses and prevent yourself from engaging with narcissists, signing up and being in a double dungeon, so to speak, with the narcissist, and being in a relationship that you are toxically tied to, and find yourself having a really, really hard time extricating yourself from. So, this is a call-in show, or if you don't know, this is a call-in show, 323-524-2599. Feel free to pick up the phone, call in. I know that you like to ask questions in the chat room. Frankly, I'd rather engage with you and find out more about what the Freud is going on with you, and how it is that you are watching the show tonight, and why it is that you're watching the show tonight, and what is important for you to learn about staying clear of narcissistic relationships. So the first point I want to bring up is that narcissists are very instinctual at intuiting your negative core beliefs. So if you have core beliefs like you're not worthy, you're not worth it, you're not lovable, you're fat, ugly, stupid, you're incompetent, and the list goes on, they will very quickly intuit what it is that is specifically your Achilles heel and play on it. And so if, let's say, you feel ugly, they will compliment you on your beauty. That is called love bombing. Not that you're not beautiful, but if they're using something that you feel is your one downsmanship to gain one upsmanship on you, then that's something that you have to stay clear of. And sometimes it's hard to tell, because somebody that has horrible negative core beliefs, those people are thirsty for compliments. They're thirsty for attention. They're thirsty to rid themselves of these horrible, painful core beliefs that were inherited or psycho-inherited from your family of origin, that got passed down to you, now lives inside of you and is being played out in the here and now, especially in primary relationships like spouses, co-workers, best friends, and so on, because we tend, as I've said many times, to repeat the past and to play out our wounds of childhood with people that surround us. And so we have to stop doing that. So the main preventative strategy to stay clear from entering into a narcissistic relationship is to heal thyself. What does that mean? Well, from a mind map perspective, it means digging deep into your childhood wounds and identifying them and revealing them to yourself, so that you could identify them and not with them, and then dismantling all of the childhood wound damages on your psyche so that you no longer are vulnerable. So the key to staying clear of narcissists is to heal thyself. So let me get into the mind map so that you can see the pathway that I've created for you. And this is a very important pathway because it's not simply the usual psychotherapy that meanders along and doesn't necessarily teach you much and keeps you stuck in years and years of therapy. I mean, if you feel like doing years and years of therapy, please go ahead. However, the mind map is designed to quickly identify your wounds of childhood, how they react in you, how they encode in you, how they create chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And unless we identify all of this psychological material, then we're going to be stuck in living out the past and not making much headway into a better life. And so it is essential that you not get stuck with your childhood wounds and your core beliefs and that you move past them. And so through working with me, a member of my team, getting my video, Healing from Narcissistic Abuse, which I completed several months ago, and it is available for you to purchase online. And I'm reminding those of you who cannot afford it to please reach out to me and we can set up a payment plan, or if you really are stuck financially, I can offer you some kind of discount. But please do not skip this part, okay? The video is for those who also don't want to be in therapy. They'd rather do it yourself and learn by yourself. And if you want to add on services while you're doing the journey, you could. But I have everything that I have conceived of and psychoeducated my patients with. A lot of that is in there. So it's kind of like doing therapy with me without paying tons of money per session and without having to do live therapy. So if you're a self-learner, I highly recommend that. So again, what are those childhood wounds that I refer to? Well, they're acts of omission, meaning what parents didn't do for us, and acts of commission, what parents did to hurt us. So the acts of omission may be something like emotional neglect. Acts of omission might be failing to really be there for you and mirror you and attune to you and attend to your special events and really be an engaged parent. The acts of commission may be acts of abuse, like verbal abuse or physical abuse or sexual abuse or any kind of abuse. Another very understated form of abuse is spoiling and spoiling and smothering a child. When you spoil your child, you weaken your child. No doubt about it. I've worked with people who spoil their children because they're afraid. They're afraid to let their children down. They're afraid to disappoint and not be supportive. But there is a difference between helpful help and unhelpful help. When you go too far in your help, you weaken the person and you disable them from helping themselves. So even though I say healthy dependency leads to healthy independence, it's also important to understand where that line is. And if you're just fostering a lot of dependency, you're going to weaken your child and you're not going to allow that individual to separate and individuate and grow. So part of the journey is for you to take inventory on your wounds and then be very, very forthright about it in your therapy sessions, because when you hold back information, the therapist absolutely can't help you because they don't know specifically what the cause is. And with the mind map process, we go back to the cause. So this is a call-in show, everybody. So I'd like to understand how you got caught up in a narcissistic relationship, why you're in one. Let's go into strategies for keeping away from narcissists, how to recognize them so that we could steer clear. However, please do not forget that much of this is an inside job, because even if you know the signs, if they know your signs of weakness and vulnerability, they can win the game and ensnare and entrap you into a relationship with them, mainly because you're hurting, you're needy, you want to cancel out the childhood pain by having somebody finally love you to pieces or treat you like a king or a queen, or esteem you like you were never esteemed before. So it's important that the inner work is there so that the vulnerability does not show up and the vulnerability is not taken advantage of by another individual. But let's go into signs of these narcissists. What are the signs? Sometimes they're obvious. In the case of overt narcissists, sometimes they're not that obvious in the case of covert narcissists. So look, if you feel at the end of the day, if you feel that you are less than rather than more than in their presence, if you feel that you're giving, 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 and they're taking, 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 something's wrong. Okay? If you're with a covert narcissist and you feel that they're giving, 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 and you're taking, 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 and then they flip the system and they stop the giving, or they future fake you, something that covert narcissists do a lot of, meaning that they'll promise you the sun and the moon and the stars and will deliver on nothing so that you can keep putting out. Remember, once you're trapped, people can flip the system on you. And by that, I mean reel you in and get it so that you're comfortable and happy and fulfilled. And then stop the system, stop the giving system so that you reel in pain. You know, now it's sort of like having the carpet pulled out from under your feet. And what happened to all the love? Well, now you're hoping that you could still get it back, and now you become enslaved to the person that is holding it back from you, withdrawing their love from you. And so now you have to work harder and harder and harder. And what happens is you exhaust yourself and you become the people pleaser that they want you to be. And guess who is the happy recipient of all your energy, your love, your kindness, your money, your sexual participation, your babysitting services, whatever it is, your ideas. You know, there are lots of ways to drain a human being. And please pay attention to the drain. So feel it in your body. If you're getting backaches, headaches, if you feel tired around a certain individual, there's a good chance that you're around a vampire. And the vampires, I use the word vampiring because that's what narcissists do. They first love bomb you and then they vampire you. So it's kind of like they put the needle in you and they inject the goodies, but then they have the needle in you and they withdraw the blood and you feel yourself drained out. So these are some of the signs that you know that you should avoid. And covert narcissists, again, they're covert, so you don't know what's hitting you until they shift the system and switch it on you, and no longer are you their most important person. On the contrary, you're their least important person. And sometimes you keep thinking that you've made a mistake and that you're not perceiving things correctly and that it's all in your head. Well, sometimes it's not all in your head. So I'd like to hear from you. Please call in. This is a call-in show. That number is 323-524-2599. And I'd like to hear about your experience and how you are maybe better able to steer clear of narcissists because you've learned a good deal. So that is a huge key, learning a lot. psychoeducation. And that's why I created a system of healing, because not only are you just talking through your pain, you're also learning. So you've got to learn. You've got to learn the signs of narcissism. You've got to learn your weaknesses. You've got to learn how to deconstruct your past so that you can no longer fall victim to it. There's a lot of learning along the pathway of healing. Okay. Question in the chat room. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So the question is, how do you build a resistance before getting involved in a narcissistic relationship, friends or other, if you didn't grow up in a narcissistic family?
Oh, if you didn't grow up in a narcissistic family, chances are that you're more resistant. You are more resistant. If you grew up in a healthier family, you're not going to find narcissists as attractive necessarily, because you'll be on a different giving and taking system. You'll know what fairness is all about. If you had giving, loving, and nurturing parents, that's probably the bar that you're going to set for yourself in a relationship. So if you're in a healthy environment growing up, then you're not going to tolerate too much to an unhealthy relationship. Now, if you grew up in a narcissistic system, then parents set the bar, so you will be more vulnerable. Let me answer it from that point of view. What was the question again, so I can really...
So to just Reader's Digest version, if you didn't grow up in a narcissistic family, how do you build a resistance, or how do you look out for narcissistic people if you didn't grow up in it?
Okay, so if you didn't grow up in it and narcissistic people are knocking on the door, like I said before, you're not going to be as quick to answer. It's just not going to be as interesting. If you are still finding that you're vulnerable to narcissists, even after you grew up in a loving, nurturing home, then it's probably because you are doing something that a lot of people do, something that I used to do a lot of, called positive projection. And positive projection is giving people the benefit of the doubt before they've even earned it. So it's kind of like assuming. The word assume makes an ass out of you and me. You assume that the person is genuine. You assume that the person is out for your best interests. You assume and assume and assume, because in your family, nobody acts that way. Nobody takes advantage like that. Nobody uses other people for their own benefit. So it's almost like you never knew what that thing looked like. So now the thing shows up in your life, and you assume that there are no such things as that thing, but there are. Okay? There are. And so over time, you'll discover that you're just not doing well. Over time, you'll discover little things that will be indicators to you that something is off. And one of the things that narcissists love to do is gaslight you. So if you're vulnerable and you come from a kind of a rose-colored glasses type of world, you might miss their darkness, because you'll just cover it up with rose-colored glasses. And so sometimes those signs show up in your body. You're not, like I said, you don't feel well, you're drained, you feel that there's a sense of imbalance in the relationship, or you find out little secrets along the way. You find out that they weren't where they said they were going to be, or they don't come through in their promises, or you discover that they fake their financial statement, and you find out that they're not in as good a position as you thought they were. So look out for mismatch. Okay, when things are congruent, when things line up, then you know that you're in a system gone right. When things do not line up, then you can count on a system that's gone wrong. That will end up, if you will, put up the mind map. So if the system isn't built right, see panel 1, 2, 3, wounds, reactions, and encodings. If those encodings are not healthy encodings, they will absolutely end in chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And so you'll find that if you're with a narcissist, there's lots of chaos, there are lots of lies, there are lots of puzzling events. Again, things don't feel congruent, they don't line up. And then you may find yourself defending them. So with those rose-colored glasses, you might say, no, that person didn't really mean it, or no, that's an exception to the rule, or yeah, the person was just not feeling well and that's why they acted that way. So, in a sense, here's a good one for you. If you find that you're defending the person way too much, that's a sign that there's something off. Why are you defending the person against things that don't add up and line up? Also, if you find that they're not defending you, if they're throwing you under the bus, if they're blaming and finger pointing toward you just to get the monkey off their back, that's another way to strategize and steer clear of that narcissistic individual. So again, it's all in the system gone wrong. Is there chaos? Are there defenses? Is the person lying? Is the person gaslighting you? Are you feeling that you're giving too much and not receiving a lot? Did you feel overly given to and then suddenly deprived of? These are things that in a healthy relationship, you're supposed to get consistently. You're supposed to be sharing and receiving consistently. It's not supposed to be a trick where you get a lot and then the giving stops. And then you've got to work extra hard to get. And then at the end of the day, you're dumped anyway. So that leads me to typical narcissistic behaviors. They love to demean, they love to devalue, they love to destroy, they love to discard. So even if you're in a relationship for very, very many years, it doesn't mean that you haven't been discarded. Maybe they've discarded you for an affair. Maybe they've discarded you for their addiction. Maybe they've discarded you for their work. So it's possible that you're still in the relationship, but you're not feeling very connected at all. And that leads to that final point about narcissists. They lack empathy. They lack the ability to really emotionally connect. They do not have very good skills at attunement and mirroring and owning their own stuff. They do not know how to put themselves in your shoes and truly get how you feel, other than maybe chameleoning you and mimicking what you told them about yourself. They're good at being chameleons because they do want to make sure that you think that they know how to do all those things, like mirror you and attune to you. But there's something that's going to feel very hollow. So trust your gut. Maybe they're saying the right things, maybe they're doing the right things, but if you feel that there's a lack of connection, a real lack of human connection, please trust your gut on this. There probably is a lack of human connection. I remember saying to somebody that I was in a relationship with, I said, I throw you the ball and you just don't play ball. You just let the ball sit there. It's almost like no effort is made. You might say something interesting, provocative, and nothing comes back. And thank you for calling in. Hello. Thanks so much for being on air here. And what name would you like me to call you by?
This is Deanna, but I'm Lady Virgo in the chat. Hi, Dr. Judy.
Hi, how you doing? I'm sorry, did you say Deanne?
Deanna,
Deanna, nice to talk to you. So how do you relate to
you
tonight's,
too.
thank you. How do you relate to tonight's topic?
Well, I was blindsided and what I guess is called discarded by my husband of 12 years,
Oh,
May of 2023.
okay.
And I had mistaken the trials and tribulations that I went through with him for alcoholism alone. And now that I'm aware, I've been dealing with a covert narcissist, and the common denominator is me because this is not my first life experience with these same type of toxic relationships.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I called you, I don't know how long ago it was, but I called and shared my story with you when I was dealing with family dynamics after the loss of my son. And I had went no contact with a couple of family members, not even realizing I was also married to a narcissist.
I'm very sorry. How are you doing with all of that, the loss of your son? And
Um, I thought I was actually getting better until my husband or soon ex-husband discarded. He blindsided me. I didn't see it coming. In fact, what you were just talking about before I called in about the future faking and
yeah,
um that healthy relationships actually have more stability and they're not hot cold. Well, now that I'm aware, it was very back and forth, hot and cold, and it felt like a lot of times I was the one regulating his emotions if he even felt
yes,
them, but it was almost like he would come home from work and the whole atmosphere in the house would change.
yeah.
Um, he was never physically abusive, but it was a lot of psychological, emotional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just want to
So,
say how, you said, well, I was discarded by my ex-husband. I want to turn that around and put it a different way and see if you can relate to this. How about you were released by him?
I've actually had other people say to me, you need to look at this as freedom.
Right.
Um, but I think with me being diagnosed with PTSD back in 2014 after I lost my son, I'm seeing it now because I'm like coming out of a fog. It feels like I'm coming out of seeing things with the rose-colored glasses on and seeing it for what it is instead of
Yep.
what I thought it was or maybe
Yep.
what I wished it to be.
Yes.
And I do actually see the freedom of it. However, I feel like he used my vulnerabilities to beat me down to the point where I did feel like I got thrown away. So I'm still trying to process that, obviously.
Right. And they really are good at sussing out your vulnerabilities. And so when I say you've been released, it's true. You've been released, but then again, you were toxically bonded to this man. Okay, so like an
I've,
addiction,
yeah,
right?
yes.
It sure doesn't feel like a release when the drug leaves you. Better that you leave the drug, not the drug leaves you.
And it's continued, actually, the control and the abuse, because it's been 10 months that the divorce was filed for, and I'm still not divorced at this point legally. I've
Okay.
been taking a lot of alone time. I've been going to counseling. Unfortunately, the counselor I found who was doing EMDR therapy with me, which I found to be very helpful,
Mhm.
has changed career paths. And so now I'm in a small area trying to find another one. But you're right, because it did feel like um, withdrawal symptoms and still does it at times right now as well.
Yeah, people don't know how love is defined. You see, they think that if you're so in love with them, that's love, correct? It's not, most people don't think about, well, how does this person care for me? How does this person make me feel? How well does this person keep his or her word? How is this person's character? Okay, these are really important questions that are overlooked, because when we quote fall in love, all bets are off. Who cares if they drink? Who cares if they're rude? Who cares if, it's like, haha, that's kind of funny. Look how funny they are talking back to other people, until it's not funny. So I would say that the biggest vulnerability is paying too much attention to how you feel about them versus how they make you feel.
Yes, and the tricky part about this, it was very the mental, emotional realization. Good provider, this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden, the peace and the calm that I created in myself and in my home would be just like a landmine. Something outlandish would happen. Something was outlandishly said. Very cold stuff that was just, at one point, now that I'm coming out of it as well, I've realized at one point he looked at me and said, "You are looking for attention from the loss of your son." And I looked at him and I was almost, I think, in shock of what he said to me. And I'm like, I passed it off. I gave him a pass for something that was so cold, because of course I would take my son back in the physical any day, but then to have the man that you're married to. And you know what I've realized too, Dr. Judy? I was in love with the idea of what I thought he was, not who he is.
That's a great point. I wanted to ask you, is this the father of your son?
No, it is not.
No.
No,
So,
no. And my children both have the same dad, and he was actually a narcissist too. It was the first relationship I got into at 15 years old.
mm-hmm.
And the pattern definitely comes from my home and my upbringing. Two things. You said something earlier about assuming the best in everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely got that trait from my father.
Yeah.
And my mother both.
Yeah.
And not having people earn their trust with me. I would give it to people, and I've done it all my life. I'm not no more, but lessons learned. I'm almost 50 years old, and I'm now thankful that I can start over fresh and new, but I have so much healing to do and so much unpacking to do. I definitely need to get in contact with a good counselor again, because like I said, mine left her.
What part of the United States are you in? What part of the world are you in?
I'm in Michigan.
Michigan, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Judy, what I noticed is, oops, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just curious, have you done the mind map process?
I believe I had that. Was that a download?
Well, the video that's out recently is called Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. So I think it might be something to look at, and you can contact me personally about it, and we could discuss it. I just would like to see you get into the depth of the childhood wounds so that you're not repeating them again. Okay.
I think I pinpointed it to be emotional abandonment, because my mom is very disconnected emotionally.
Yeah.
But yes, I'll definitely go back over that again, because I called in years ago, and then again, the rug got pulled out from underneath of me May of last year, and all of the PTSD symptoms are right back to like it was when my son passed away.
Oh, okay. Was that the episode titled something like "Parents Own Your Own Stuff"?
I believe that sounds like it resonates to me, Dr. Judy, and I know I saved that episode in my playlist on YouTube as well, so I'd have to go back and look, but that does sound like it resonates. Yeah,
I think that was a really, I think even for me, it was quite poignant conversation we had when we were talking about parents owning their own stuff, and then you called in and talked about how your son committed suicide. It was
Yes,
quite,
he did pass away by suicide. And
yes.
at the time, I quit looking at that episode because some of the comments were quite rude and about me, and at that time I was kind of not closing myself down to other people's opinions and thoughts, but I was hurt by it, I guess. And so I've had to self-reflect on my own doing in the common denominator of when I called into you, I was still in a one-sided marriage that I didn't even realize that I was in, again, until just last year. And now when I just happened to see you come on live and I'm looking at the topic and it seems you were talking directly to me again, and I'm trying to do what I need to do to heal my own so I don't repeat patterns in any aspect. And I'm trying to hold my own self accountable of when you see somebody being or hear them being so disrespectful, to not just pass it off. And I believe, I can't be diagnosing my soon ex-husband, but I believe wholeheartedly covert narcissism. And again, this is a repeated cycle because I had 2 children with a narcissist as well.
You know, sometimes when people say something is off the wall is what your ex said to you about, oh, you know, what did he say, that you're just using your son's death as a reason to be more leaning on me, or what was it that he said? It was so obviously beyond cold.
Yeah, that I was looking for attention from it.
Well, first of all, of course you're looking for attention called love and empathy because you're human, correct? Okay. And
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
put it that way is absolutely narcissistic. You know, and that's the thing, is sometimes you'll catch people say things and then you'll go, oh my God, wow.
I don't understand why I don't see it while I'm in it instead of the aftermath.
Well, you know, we don't see things when we believe things to be true about ourselves. Like if we believe that we're not good enough and somebody says that we're not good enough, then we don't believe that there's something wrong with their saying it because we're saying it to ourselves. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes. Self-worth.
Like they're
Yes.
just aligning themselves with what we thought. But if we feel that that it's inappropriate for them to call out things that we're working on, even if we feel that we're not good enough, we'll get some kind of a sense of indignancy of, how dare you say that to me? That's something that I get to work on within myself, but you don't get to tell me that. And
Yes.
that, right?
Yes, for sure. It was obvious at the end that back to the vulnerabilities being used against you, of taking advantage of my kindness, my forgiveness, which I know now that forgiveness don't mean you keep repeating patterns over and over. I was taught that as a child, and now I know different. Forgiveness is for somebody who truly makes a mistake and then corrects themselves and don't do it again. But being told at the end, you know, I faked loving you for 12 years. And then within 10 days, you change your phone number from somebody you've been married to for 12 years. And then he also ghosted my adult daughter, who's not his child, but was his stepfather figure, for 12 years. And then that made me realize, like, this had nothing to do with me. This had to do with you. But however, where is my energy at? I know I've grown since my son passed away in 2014. However, I don't know why I keep being, it's made me want to isolate myself from people because I don't want to be open to this kind of toxic relationship again.
That's why it's so important for you to know the signs, right? It's so important for you not to positively project and give credit to people when they haven't even earned it. I believe
Yes.
to understand people, you got to go into the relationship slower than what most people do. Okay,
And I look back now too, and that was a red flag that toxic or narcissistic people like to move really fast, and we did, because in 2011, I think we had been together about 10 months and we got married.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He put a great character forward, though. I literally thought he was my soulmate. And he basically mirrored all of my good traits to me, you know, opening the car door and pushing in the chair and love notes and yada. It was very, now I see it, but while I was in it, it felt good to get attention from somebody that you were drawn to, but now I realize that it wasn't real.
Well, you know, another definition of a soulmate is somebody who shines the light on your Achilles heel and your childhood wounds, right? Because that person rips open your soul so that you can go in there and repair it. So although it doesn't feel good, right? I do pay attention to curse by designs, and some people come into our lives to be that curse by design and wake us up and shake us down to the core where you know we have to, you know, we have to start looking inward and wondering what the Freud is going on with me, that I got attracted to this person and gave my mind, body, and soul to this person, and what was my cracked lens of perception on the person to make me think that this person was so amazing. So, you know,
most definitely,
right? So soulmate doesn't always mean that they're the best thing that happened to you. Could be the worst thing that happened to you.
Yeah.
So that you can make the best thing happen to you for part 2 of your life.
Amen to that. I relate to that. I am growing. I'm finding myself struggling to get my life force energy back after 12 years with him, though. And I'm getting it little by little, but I can definitely tell where I'm just drained emotionally, physically. And while I was with him, I did have a lot of digestive issues, a lot of skin rashes that are now subsiding 10 months into my freedom journey. I'm realizing, oh my God, that's why you had headaches all the time too, because I'm not having as many headaches. I'm not having as many full-on panic attacks as I was. I'm not saying the anxiousness isn't still there, but I'm not having the full-blown ones that just like debilitate me.
Well, the mind and the body, and I talk about this a lot, the mind and the body are so interconnected. And now we're finding out that the disease starts with dis-ease. And that's why in my book, I talk about dis-ease. Dis-ease, we're not at ease, right? And then when we're not at ease, we tense up and we destroy our bodies. So it's so important to treat the body. Somatic help, yoga, meditation, hot baths, massages, eating properly, drinking a lot of water, self-care, looking into ways to dial down the amygdala, EMDR, which I'm not very well versed in, but some people say that it's very, very helpful. Whatever it takes to dial down that fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, because that's the activating part of our brain. When we get activated, then we go into that primitive state and we get stuck there. And for me, what I need to do is, the most effective for me is just go to a yoga class, which I'm going to do tonight after my session today. I'm going to go to a yoga class and just release all the stress and leave it on the mat. And whatever you
I have to be in nature.
Right, nature.
I have to be in nature every day.
Right, my dogs. See, dog mama. I love my dogs to pieces. They give me a lot of peace. And just having them around physically affects me, dials down my amygdala, gives me a sense of containment, of soothing. So whatever you need to do to treat your mind, body, soul. Okay, because it's not just psychology, right? If it were only psychology, then what? I could help people and then they can eat whatever they want or do whatever they want to their body or
Oh, no, it's all connected. Yes, I can tell. And I've been in fight or flight all my life from childhood, and I never understood it. And then I guess my coping mechanisms with everything that I've had unfold in my life, which again, I know I'm the common denominator. I'm very sensitive to everything and everybody. And like you were talking about your dogs, pets, huge for me.
Yeah.
I know when something's off with them. I mean, I can sense all of that. So my sensitivity, I do realize is a gift, but at the same time, I can't allow it to be a curse in my life neither, you know?
Right. And watch who you give your sensitivity to. You see, it's beautiful to be giving and to be kind and have a warm heart. However, if you give your warm-hearted nature to a vampire, you're not going to be any better off. There's no sense of synergy there. So if you look at my logo, you know, mind, body, soul, 1 + 1 is greater than 2. Panel 7, the synergy panel, you plus another human being create more than just who you individually are. That's the light. So if you're not with somebody that creates more light with you, you're not in a synergistic relationship. And that's the only kind that count for me. Synergistic relationships are the only kind that nourish, the only kind. If you're taking from them, not giving to them, then right, there's going to be no synergy for that other human, vice versa. So in order for us to be in a position of being good partners, we have to constantly work on ourselves, develop ourselves, be the best of the best that we can be, and then be around people who are doing the same and putting it together.
And sadly, I don't even know what it feels like to be in a healthy relationship. And that's something with my, I call it a spiritual awakening after my son passed away. Okay, and I'm having this realization that I was the one that created the peace in myself and in my home, and it was never to do with my soon ex-husband. It was me the whole time. So hopefully now that, like you said, change my wording, now that I'm freed, or however we want to put it,
yeah,
the true journey of healing can happen for me.
Yeah, even though you didn't want to release it, he left, and so he released you from it. Lucky you, because you could, you know, if he didn't release you from it, you might be in it right now, and you might be decompensating even more, draining.
Same cycle, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So there's your curse by design. He did it for you. You couldn't do it.
I'll definitely be calling for the mind map too, and I appreciate your time, Dr. Judy. Thank you so much for what you do.
Welcome. You know, reach out to me. We'll figure it out. Okay. And everybody, reach out to me if you want to be on this path of healing. I know some people can afford or can't afford, but you know, let's try to figure something out so that you're not stuck in what I call that double dungeon of darkness, nowhere to turn, you know, just stewing in your own psychopathology, not a good place to be. So I appreciate you calling in. And for everybody out there leaving comments, please understand that people are sharing their vulnerability. And if you're using other people's vulnerability on my show to stab them, That's the definition of narcissism. Okay, so if anybody is reading somebody's comments that's stabbing at them, then just know that that person is not empathic, obviously, and doesn't understand what empathy is and why people share what they share. People share what they share to get better, not to be stabbed in their vulnerable spots. Okay, so whether you're mindful of it or not, for those of you who are experiencing those kinds of comments, just know from my mouth that those that are giving those comments are not healthy, and it's not something for you to consider as valuable feedback. Okay, I hope that helps. So, okay, everyone, I will be back next week. And please be mindful of who you let into your life and be proactive. And remember, smart people solve problems and geniuses prevent them. Words of Einstein. Thank you and good night, everyone.